Every small town has that one man who refuses to give up on a dream everyone else laughs at. For Millfield, that man was Jack Morrison, a quiet mechanic who spent 20 years inside his garage, tinkering on what the whole neighborhood called junk. Rusted metal, peeling paint, a relic from another era, the old Formula One car sat there like a monument to foolish hope. His children mocked it, calling it Dad's $1 million mistake. But when Jack passed away one frozen February morning, that so-called mistake would rewrite their entire understanding of who he really was. His son, Michael Morrison, came home to settle the estate, a successful Chicago consultant, cold and practical, ready to sell off his father's possessions and move on. Yet something inside that dusty garage waited for him, something worth over $100 million, something tied to secrets people had once killed to protect. The legend of a vanished driver named Alindro Romano, a stolen masterpiece of racing engineering, and a friendship that spanned 5 decades were all buried inside that silent garage. What Michael was about to uncover wasn't just his father's obsession. It was the truth that the entire racing world had spent half a century trying to erase. The February wind howled through Maple Street as Michael unlocked the house that had raised him. The walls still smelled of oil and lavender, his father's grit and his late mother's grace clinging to every corner. His sister Sarah waited at the kitchen table, surrounded by boxes, bank papers, and bitter memories. To her, the garage was just proof of Jack's wasted years. 20 years of parts, magazines, and failed dreams, money that could have gone to her mother's medical care. Michael tried to agree, but when he looked through the kitchen window toward the barn-sized garage, something in him hesitated. That building had loomed large throughout his childhood, a place of mystery, where his father spent nights whispering to engines instead of family. When Sarah suggested selling everything, Michael insisted on checking it himself. He couldn't explain why. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, maybe something deeper that whispered, "Don't erase him yet." When he finally walked across the frozen yard, keys heavy in his hand, it felt like approaching a tomb built for secrets. The padlock creaked open, and as the fluorescent lights flickered to life, Michael's breath caught. The garage wasn't the cluttered mess he remembered. Every tool was lined in perfect order, and in the center stood that infamous car, covered in canvas, silent, waiting. And when he pulled the cover off, the junk his father died defending gleamed like gold. Underneath the canvas lay a machine that looked too perfect to belong in a small-town mechanic's shop. The deep red paint shimmered under the light, accented with gold trim and vintage sponsor decals, not rust, not ruin, but rebirth. The old Formula One car had been fully restored to pristine condition, down to the smallest rivet. Michael could hardly breathe. His father had done this alone, rebuilt what was once broken, piece by piece, as if guided by a purpose beyond obsession. On the workbench nearby sat a worn leather notebook filled with precise handwriting, blueprints, and sketches labeled Romano specifications. Over and over one name appeared, Alindro Romano, a driver Michael had never heard of. The final entry read, "M will understand someday. The truth is all here." As Michael flipped through pages, the handwriting told a story his father had never spoken aloud, a story of stolen technology, betrayal, and a race car worth fortunes. When he found a hidden compartment beneath the driver's seat, his pulse surged. Inside lay a stack of letters tied with ribbon and a heavy gold medallion engraved with Italian words. Campion del Mondo 1973. World champion, but no such name existed in racing archives. Romano, it seemed, had been erased from history. The letters told of a friendship, a theft, and a secret that had cost lives. And Jack Morrison, humble small-town mechanic, had been guarding it all along. The letters unfolded like confessions written across time. "The car holds the truth," one read. "When the world is ready, they'll know what we accomplished." Romano's words painted him not as a racer, but as a revolutionary inventor, the mind behind technology decades ahead of its time. In 1974, his entire operation had been robbed, blueprints stolen, research burned, and his name scrubbed from every racing record. Facing ruin, he entrusted the prototype car to one man he could trust, Jack Morrison. And for 50 years, Jack had lived quietly, protecting that secret from those who would silence it forever. When Michael pieced together the meaning of Romano's last letter, he realized his father had been part of a cover-up so vast it reshaped the history of motorsport. The man everyone mocked as delusional had been a hero, preserving evidence of innovation stolen by billion-dollar corporations. For the first time, Michael looked at the car not as a symbol of his father's failures, but as the culmination of loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. The man he thought he'd never understood had been living a second life, one built on trust and danger, silence and purpose. And now, with Jack gone, that purpose had passed to Michael. Driven by equal parts awe and grief, Michael searched for answers. His investigation led him to Dr. Elena Vasquez, a retired engineer who had once worked alongside Romano. When they met in a quiet cafe, her first words froze him. "You look just like your father." She pulled out old photos, young Jack in racing coveralls beside a lean Italian man with fierce eyes. That was Romano. She revealed the truth. Romano had been poised to revolutionize Formula One with groundbreaking aerodynamics and fuel systems, but powerful manufacturers had stolen his work and buried his name. Jack had smuggled out the only surviving prototype, the car now in Michael's garage, and vanished to America to keep it safe. For decades, Vasquez had been searching for proof, and now, finally, she had it. Together they examined the car, confirming it was Romano's original, serial number AR741 etched into its engine block, proof undeniable. In that moment, Michael realized his father's obsession hadn't been madness. It had been devotion. Jack had carried a burden too dangerous to share, waiting for a time when truth could survive. That time, it seemed, had come. But as they planned to reveal Romano's story, shadows began to move around them. Someone else knew what they'd found. Days later, Michael and Sarah opened their father's safe deposit box. Inside lay a hidden history, multiple passports with Jack's face under different names, foreign bank accounts, and photos of him working in European racing pits decades earlier. And one final letter, written just before he died. In it, Jack confessed everything. He had once been a certified Formula One mechanic and Romano's closest friend. When Romano's enemies closed in, Jack smuggled the car and evidence to the U.S., swearing to protect them until the world was ready. The Swiss funds were Romano, sent to ensure Jack's family never suffered for his silence. But the letter ended with one haunting line. "Alindro is still alive." 50 years of secrecy suddenly made sense. Their father hadn't been chasing dreams, he'd been fulfilling a promise. As Sarah cried over the letter, guilt washed through them both. They had mocked a man who had risked everything for honor. Jack Morrison hadn't failed his family. He had shielded them from a world that would have destroyed them. The humble mechanic had been guarding a treasure not of money, but of truth. Michael returned to the garage one last time, determined to finish what his father started. Guided by Vasquez's notes, he discovered one final secret. The steering wheel's hub concealed Romano's final testament, a signed confession detailing names, companies, and stolen technologies that shaped modern racing. It was explosive proof, enough to rewrite the sport's history. That same night, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was old, Italian, and steady. "My name is Alindro Romano. You've been looking for me." The man long thought dead revealed himself at last, alive, hidden, watching. He told Michael the truth that broke his heart. Jack's death had not been natural. Someone had silenced him to stop the truth from resurfacing. The men behind the 1974 theft still had power, and they knew the secret was about to be exposed. Romano urged Michael to meet him in secret, promising to reveal everything. The torch had passed from a vanished genius to the son of the man who had protected him for half a century. Michael now carried his father's purpose and Romano's legacy, the responsibility to bring justice to history itself. That night, beneath the pale light of a rising moon, Michael walked the same gravel path his father had taken for 20 years, the path that led to truth. In the cemetery's silence, a frail man stepped from the shadows, Alindro Romano, alive, his eyes filled with decades of loss and gratitude. He placed a trembling hand on Michael's shoulder. "Your father didn't die protecting a secret," he said softly. "He died protecting honor." In that moment, Michael understood. His father hadn't been chasing a dream. He'd been preserving a legacy that would one day set history right. Together, Michael and Romano vowed to finish what Jack Morrison started, to tell the world the truth about the car, the theft, and the men who tried to bury both. The dawn broke over Millfield as sunlight poured through the garage windows, glinting off the red and gold masterpiece that had waited half a century to be heard. It wasn't just a car anymore. It was proof that some dreams refuse to die, and some fathers never really leave. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll away. Subscribe, share it with someone who still believes in doing the right thing, and come back tomorrow. Because the next story will prove, even the quietest lives can hide the loudest legacies.